I'm with Alan Collins. Haven't spoken to him for a long time. He's been over to Jersey. What have you been over for, Alan?
I've been over for the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry. The panel's returned this week to, as I understand it, see what progress has been made since the panel reported 2 years ago. Have a review, look to see what's good, what's not so good, as I understand it. It's spoken to lots of people. It's taken testimony from lots of people, so I hope it's been a constructive week for them.
They said they had about 200 people. Any idea what sort of people have been writing in, and did they discuss with you?
They're certainly not shared with me, but I would take it that they've been speaking to people all the way across society.
I mean, you've been with this right the way through from the beginning. It was your instigation because you sort of gently suggested to them that if they didn't do something, you were going to take the cases to the English courts, which the Jersey establishment didn't like that idea very much, did they?
Well, this has always been hovering around in the background. My job is to represent, to the best of my ability, the survivors who come to me for advice and representation, and it's difficult, it's tough, because you're dealing with complex, very difficult, painful issues. Survivors, in my experience, are always looking for justice, which is often elusive for them, and my job is to try and bring that about. And I have to make noises, I have to bang on doors, I have to rattle cages in order to try and get somewhere for them.
That was to do with probably what they call the Haute de la Garenne victims. But that's moved on. That's been dealt with as far as we know.
Yes, it had a redress scheme, which in my opinion was successful. Yep.
Right. Now you're dealing with a second batch of people, but you're still having to push it. They haven't really learned, have they? Well,
hopefully we'll have a scheme up and running in July. So that's the destination, and hopefully it'll be a scheme that's workable, that people can buy into and feel that this is some semblance of justice for them, albeit for many, I appreciate it's imperfect, but in my world, some justice is better than none at all.
Have you had to use the English threat this time or not?
Well, it's invariably, it's always invariably you're having to look at how best to advance the cases for the individuals, whether it's bringing cases in Jersey or bringing cases somewhere else. You're always having to look at what is the best avenue to go down. And we have to appreciate that some people don't live in Jersey. You have to look at all the different aspects and try and work out what is the best way to go.
Are they looking at a scheme now, a redress scheme, where it's one amount of money each person the same, or are they going to have to individually made to measure for suit the claim?
Well, I don't want to go too much into that, but it will be not, as I understand it, too dissimilar to the original scheme that we had a couple of years ago. So there'll be some similarities, as I understand it.
Because you said today, when you were addressing the panel today, that it is very much centred on people being able to get help, assistance for psychiatric
Very
help.
important,
They need it.
yeah.
Counselling, that was the sort of thing they were looking at. And that will surprise many people that after quite a few years, that will still be effective. That sort of treatment will be effective.
Yes, I'm not an expert on psychiatry, far from it. I'm just a lawyer, but from my experience of these cases, whilst you can't wipe memories and have some sort of magic cure, there are very specialist treatments and therapies available that can make life better. It can make it more livable. It enables the survivor to cope and function at a level that is better than that they're currently experiencing.
Because they've been going on at great length about recruitment of social workers, that's one thing, but the local training of social workers. But the specialist sort of worker that's needed for the sort of work you're describing, that's not in either of those categories, is it? So this is yet another category of person.
For me, it's a no-brainer. Jersey has to have systems, but it's relatively straightforward for the right people to be recruited, whether they live in Jersey or whether they live somewhere else. You need to be able to have the best and not the second best.
And presumably those people are fairly short supply because there is...
Day specialist work.
And there is an awful lot of abuse of one sort or another going on.
It's a very specialised work, and you've got to make it, in my experience, attractive for those specialists to come to your hospital or to your or come to your patch or your centre, your treatment centre to work.
Have you had many people who you know that would qualify under the scheme have said, look, I don't want anything to do with it?
There will always be people, in my experience, who will not sign up to redress schemes or any other kind of scheme. There's always, in my experience of these things, a sizable number of survivors who will not go anywhere near any kind of scheme or any form of redress.
What sort of age range are the people you are helping?
Generally speaking, 20s, 30s, 40s.
And again, you were talking today about a lot of them have experienced prison. That's one of the...
Yeah.
And it wasn't until they got to prison that they got any help.
Yeah. Extraordinary, isn't it?
It is extraordinary.
Yeah, I've been told that many a time.
You're here in Jersey, sunny Jersey yet again, but who's paid for your trip?
I have.
You have, personally.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Would you ever get that money back, or is that just...
I suspect on this occasion probably not.
And how many times do you reckon that's happened?
Well, to be frank, obviously there are some occasions which are totally connected with fee-paying work where I hope one day me and my firm will get paid.
Really?
There are other occasions when I have to come over because it is very necessary, in the knowledge that I won't get paid, and my firm won't get paid either. It's not something that I broadcast. You're the first person that's ever asked me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very strange, because they made such a play about all the amount of money the big inquiry cost and all the millions that were there. Somebody was saying, oh, well, that Alan Collins must be doing all right then.
Well, if they think that, well, let them think that. Life and reality are often completely different.
Right. The other schemes that are going on, there's a huge inquiry still going on in the UK, but we hear nothing about it.
Yeah, there's very little publicity on the independent inquiry in London, IJCI, doing all sorts of, interesting and good work. But but it doesn't get much media coverage.
Have you participated in that?
Yes, I was there yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you referred to your parliamentarian work, addressing MPs, presumably. Is that, again, you're a busy chap in this field, but it can't go on forever, can it?
No. People get bored with seeing me or listening to me. But all the time that people want me to contribute or to assist, I will. If I get asked to help in any way, I always try and step up to the plate.
When with your last appearance before the panel, before they wrote their report, you were famous 2 years ago. When you were referring to Le Chêne people, there was also other people who'd been sent off by the courts, not into detention as such, but in various categories of accommodation away from their homes.
Yeah.
And the implication was that a lot of that was done without any legal structure, any legal safeguards. Are those people falling within this scheme? Or?
Don't know is the answer to that. All these cases are very individualistic by virtue of you're dealing with individuals. I think the inquiry threw up quite a few serious question marks about processing and the legal basis for a lot of the processes about how children came to be in certain places, how they came to be in care, and so on. Yes.
Do you ever get any of the people who were involved, like the magistrate who made a lot of these orders? Do you ever phone you up and say, can I have a chat about this?
No, and I'd be surprised if anybody did. My work is confined to trying to assist and represent those folk those ex-residents of Le Chêne.
We've discussed it before. If you were in a town, 100,000 people in somewhere in England, and they had this scale of problem, I cannot imagine that the local lawyers would keep so quiet. Yet they do here, don't they?
Well, I can only speak as as me. I can't speak on what motivates other people and what they do or what they don't do. The very nature of child abuse naturally makes people recoil for understandable reasons, and I can understand fully why some lawyers would not go near this work.
But they're talking now.
But you know, I think it's very important to understand that. So back over in the UK, there's only a relatively small number of lawyers who will take on these cases because they are very difficult for legal reasons. They're very difficult because of the subject matter. You know, your flesh creeps when you hear some of these stories and accounts. It can be very unpleasant and difficult work, and it's legally challenging as well. So I have no criticisms to make of lawyers who do not go anywhere near this work.
But even as non-work, as people who can advise, because they're talking now about the corporate parent. It's not just states members who have to be the corporate parent. It's everybody who's got any ability.
The point that I was making today is that society has to buy into the culture change that is needed. It's difficult, but if you want to have the best child protection policies and you want to have survivors integrated into the community and treated as equals and making an equal contribution to society, then you've got to have a quite a subtle but significant culture shift, and that requires leadership and some thought.
We better start because you're going to catch a plane. But
yeah, I better go.
Are there still cases happening now in Jersey which will be coming up for this sort of compensation in years to come?
I hope not, but it'd be very complacent to think not. But there isn't. It'd be very complacent. You know, this is the world that we live in, and that's why it's so important that Jersey has the best child protection policies to minimise that risk.
Off you go.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.